whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people. Whose car are we gonna take?
Thank you guys for joining us. Hit the music. There we go. Thanks for joining us on this Memorial Day. I know if you're watching live right now, we're about 1 hour earlier. Mark Thompson is taking a deserved day off. Kim McAllister is taking a day off. I decided to put together a little mini episode for you guys on this Memorial Day, just to kind of touch on the things that's been happening over the very long weekend. And it has been a lot. So thank you all for joining us, whether you're watching live or in replay, because I'm sure if you see a new episode at noon, it's 11 o'clock right now. But it doesn't matter. YouTube, the magic of YouTube is always there for us. So please click the thumbs up on this Memorial Day to show your support of the show. The Super Chat is also live, of course. That's a way for you to donate during the show or even during the replay. And of course, please visit our show's website, the NikkiMedoroShow.com. Our Patreon link is there. Please consider either becoming a first-time monthly subscriber or upping your donation every single month. Just think of it on a day-by-day basis, what the show you can afford to pay for each time you watch it. And we really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And again, PayPal links are there. And of course, the merchandise shop is there as well. All right. So I hope you guys are having a great Memorial Day, a meaningful one. A reminder that this isn't Veterans Day. This is Memorial Day, of course. This is the day where we remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Of course, politics play a role. President Biden was with with Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm sure the First Lady was there as well as Doug Emhoff, the Vice President's husband. And of course, they were, laying the wreath of the unknown soldier and paying their respects. And then we have former President Donald Trump, who hops on his own social media platform. This is what he said on Memorial Day. So he says, obviously wishing people a meaningful Memorial Day. And he says, but especially to those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for the country they love. Good. And to those in line of a very different but equally dangerous fire, stopping the threats of the terrorists, misfits, and lunatic thugs who are working feverishly from within to overturn and destroy our once great country, which has never been in greater peril than it is right now. We must stop the communists, Marxists, and fascist quote unquote pigs at every turn and make America great again. Yeah. So, kind of a typical response. So, I do think that things are going to really start to heat up now that Ron DeSantis is officially in the race. Did you see this latest poll, though? And it doesn't surprise me, although I just don't get the attraction of Trump still. But even here in California, Trump has a substantial lead over DeSantis. Trump has the support of 44% of California's likely Republican primary voters. DeSantis has about 26%. This is according to the UC Berkeley Institute of Governmental Studies poll that was co-sponsored by the Times. Now, just 3 months ago, DeSantis led Trump by 8 percentage points. So that's quite the flip. Mark DiCamillo, the director of the IGS poll, was quoted by SFGate. He said, Trump dominates the news, and I think he enjoys it. And I think he gets the sense when he is dominating the news, he is probably expanding his messaging to his base. I think this poll pretty much proves that. And even when the news isn't necessarily great, he's able to give his own opinion about why things are the way they are. And the Republican base pretty much believes him. Ron DeSantis, though, was on Fox and Friends. I'm going to play you a little clip of this. And now it's him against Trump, and he can't back down from any of the criticisms, of course. So here's Ron DeSantis again.
support has been really, really strong. And, we're going to press the case. I mean, they had mentioned there may be some differences with me and Donald Trump. And I think that those differences redound to my benefit in a place like Iowa. I mean, for example, he's taken the side of Disney in our fight down here in Florida. I'm standing for parents. I'm standing for children. And I think a multi-billion-dollar company that sexualizes children is not consistent with the values of Florida or the values of a place like Iowa.
Governor, I think a lot of moms would agree with you on that. Certainly when you talk about our kindergartners, I've seen some of the pages of those Florida books and what they depict. But I want to talk to you for a moment. You're in Jacksonville right now. I was born there. I believe you were born there too. I want to talk to you about Memorial Day, what it means to you. But particularly yesterday, you were at a meeting with 9/11 family members, 9/11, a reason that inspired you to serve yourself. And an attendee of that meeting called it a very moving meeting, and a lot of tears were shed. What did those families share with you in that meeting?
Let's see what he says. Let's see what he says.
Well, I think a lot of it is just they've had a lot of frustrations about getting justice based on the 9/11 attacks. They're suing Saudi Arabia. They're trying to get more documents. They've been made promises in the past about getting help. And then basically some of our elected leaders have reneged on those promises. And so, I think that they've been punched in the gut a number of times. And I think it's been difficult to now be 2 decades later and still trying to get full justice. So obviously it's a very personal thing when you talk about, some of the people at that meeting were teenagers when their fathers died. There was a granddaughter who wasn't even born yet. And so she's lived through the memories of her grandfather who died in the South Tower. And so those are things that I think are still very raw, even a couple of decades later. And look, 9/11, I was down in Florida. I'm a Florida guy. I didn't have any connection in New York City, but it inspired me to join the Navy, almost 20 years ago. And so it had a profound effect on our country. And obviously to see that right there, the raw emotions from people that were directly impacted was very, very powerful.
Yeah. And, obviously I don't have anything necessarily wrong with what DeSantis is saying about the impact on families who lost loved ones on 9/11. Obviously. But again, it just does seem the politics of this whole thing are getting murky. I mean, him even saying Osama bin Laden is dead. And yes, there are still other people to be held accountable. Former President Trump hit back at DeSantis over that Disney attack, sexualizing children. Look, Donald Trump sexualizes everything. So, from grab her by the pee to walking in on beauty pageant contestants who were naked inside their dressing rooms before the pageants. Look, DeSantis has a good point there, but he's no better. Talking about Disney, the number one employer in Florida that way isn't good business at the very least. And at the very most, it's a lie. It is a lie. Thank you, Jim Slayton, for the $5 donation to our super chat. I'm going to say this, and I love, Jim, that you posted this. Jim, you wrote, Happy Memorial Day. So I was reading this article, and I'm not getting on you because I've heard this. I've said it myself in the past. I'm really working not to say it. And I'm not just meaning to call you out because so many of you are saying the same thing. So let's learn it together. I read this article because it does seem weird, right? So you're not supposed to say Happy Memorial Day because it's not Veterans Day, which is a day, I think, of honoring and saying thank you to those that are alive and have, served our country. But you don't say Happy Memorial Day because families have lost loved ones. It's not a happy day. You just heard DeSantis right there talking about people that, lost loved ones in 9/11, and then people went to war because of what happened to 9/11, and some of them lost their lives. So here's some of the things that you could say instead. I wish you a meaningful Memorial Day. I hope you enjoy your weekend and pause to remember its purpose. Or help remember those who served on Memorial Day. This one group called Code of Support, the Code of Support Foundation, said, this is how they ended their article. They said, we sincerely hope you have a wonderful, meaningful weekend. I like that. I really, really like that. So let's just, it's so hard because it's a long weekend, it's a holiday and things like that. But yeah, so we're just going to try to remember the meaning of Memorial Day and say thank you, to those that are alive and those that have passed, that have served our country. And the reason why it's really important right now is why they served. to protect our freedoms. I have heard time and time again from those young and old talking about, why they served and them saying, look, I served to protect the freedoms of people to express themselves in ways that I don't agree with. And it does seem that, sometimes it feels like we're working backwards on that. So over yesterday, I'm checking my news alerts, wondering about this friggin' debt ceiling. So a deal has been reached between President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. It was released Sunday, a 99-page bill that would suspend the nation's debt limit through 2025 and, of course, avoid a federal default. Now, there's compromises to be made. President Biden gave a press conference. I'm going to play you a little bit of it in just a moment. But I love what he says at one point during the press conference. He said, this is a compromise. We're not all going to get what we want. And so what I'm going to play for you now is actually the press questions to the president. Because, you could say what you want about Biden. Okay. You can talk about his age. You can talk about how he stumbles with his words. But he knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's talking about. So here's a little bit. Again, this is the press conference that after President Biden made the announcement that they had reached. Now it's before Congress. So it's not a done deal yet, people. Congress still needs to approve it. So there's going to be some arm twisting is what they're calling it. But again, this is the press questions to President Biden yesterday.
President, you said at the beginning that the debt ceiling was not negotiable. Isn't that what you've just done here? Isn't that
you guys, look, we're not negotiating the debt ceiling. Here's the deal.
We're not negotiating the debt ceiling.
They said they passed the debt ceiling, and they said they'd only do it on condition that it have all these cuts in it. Mm-hmm. I said, I'm not going to do that. You pass the debt ceiling, period. I'll negotiate with you on the cuts, what you say, what's going to happen, what the budget's going to look like. That's what we are negotiating in order to get to them deciding that they're going to go along with a new debt ceiling, meaning that it's not attached. It's something totally different attached than was attached before. So if you want to try to make it look like I made some compromise on the debt ceiling, I didn't. I made a compromise on the budget.
That's what they wanted, is you to make a compromise on the budget, and that's what
Listen
you've
to
done,
this.
even though you haven't gone as far as they wanted. Isn't that right?
Sure, yeah. Well, can you think of an alternative?
Can you think of an alternative? I love that line. It's like, what else am I supposed to do? Listen to this.
Too many concessions in this deal.
Too many
They'll
concessions.
find I didn't.
They'll find I didn't.
Mr. President, on your allies and adversaries to America, would you be willing to say about what you think this process said to those adversaries and allies? You have a deal now, but what does the process say? What does the struggle say?
Well, it says we've been through this more than once, and it's just the nature of the way we handle the deficit and handle whether we're going to each year going to pay our debts.
Yep.
And it's happened more than once. Will probably happen again, but it's not going to happen at least for another 2 years here. And I don't think beyond that it won't either.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that President Biden, but he made a great point. She's like, what about Democrats saying you made too many concessions? He's like, you'll find out I didn't. Now, there are obviously things that we want, Democrats wanted, that they're not getting. So let's see. So the agreement would keep non-defense spending roughly flat. The proposed defense budget of $886 billion, allot $704 billion for non-defense spending. Veterans care, it's Memorial Day, not Veterans Day, but Veterans care. It would fully fund medical care for veterans at the levels included in his budget. The agreement would rescind about $30 billion in unspent COVID relief funds that Congress approved through previous bills, which I'm actually fine with. If it's not being spent, let's use it for something else. It protects pandemic funding, though, for veterans' medical care, housing assistance, Indian Health Service, $5 billion for a program focused on rapidly developing the next generation of COVID vaccines. IRS funding, which was an interesting one. I remember they were putting all this money to hiring all these new agents. So Republicans were targeting the money to crack down on tax fraud. The bill takes away some of that funding, about $1.4 billion. Let's see. The deal puts in place changes in the National Environmental Policy Act for the first time in nearly 4 decades. It would designate a single lead agency to develop and schedule environmental reviews in hopes of streamlining the process. Agencies will be given 1 year to complete environmental reviews, and projects that are deemed to have complex impacts on the environment will need to be reviewed within 2 years. Now, many of you are asking, what about student loans? So they want to, Republicans do, pull back on it. They don't like the student loan relief plan. The GOP proposal was to rescind it, which would waive $10,000 to $20,000 in debt. Biden agreed to put an end to the pause on student loan payment, but the student loan relief plan will actually be decided by the U.S. Supreme Court. So that does not change. So, as far as things that are left out, Republicans passed legislation last month that would have created new work requirements for Medicaid recipients. That was left out of the final agreement. Let's see. Also absent from the deal was a GOP proposal to repeal many of the clean energy tax credits, the Democrats passed. Now the White House has defended those tax credits as resulting in hundreds of billions of dollars in private sector investments because they create thousands of manufacturing jobs. So yeah, it's exactly, Randy. You don't always get what you want. That's the nature of politics. Ding, ding, ding. And I'm okay with that as long as the conversation doesn't end. And again, we needed to pay our debt. We don't want to default. That is the point. So I'm happy to see that they worked it out. We'll probably, get more details out of the coming days. But again, Congress still needs to approve it. And so we'll see if the Republicans and the Democrats will fall in line or not, because I think June 1st was the first deadline. June 5th is when the S hits the fan, at least according to Janet Yellen. Here in California, some big insurance news. And I really can't believe that this is actually a headline. State Farm, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Yeah. They're no longer going to insure new homes in California. Nope, they're out. State Farm is abandoning California. Here's a little bit. And again, if you live, and I don't know if any of you that are live with us right now in the comments lost a home in the wildfires. But can you imagine trying to rebuild in time to still get insurance? And that's the problem. You don't know what this is going to do to housing prices. It's going to be insane. But here's a little bit from our friends at ABC7.
So, the fact that they just want to pick and choose who they cover, it just doesn't seem the way it should be.
Lisa Frizzy knows the slogan, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. But she wonders how true that is after the company announced it will no longer insure new homes and properties in California due to wildfire risk and rebuilding costs.
Come on in.
Existing State Farm customers like Lisa will not be affected. She and her family have spent the last 5 years rebuilding the Santa Rosa home they lost in the 2017 Tubbs fire. The house is now complete, but Lisa worries about others moving to the area looking to insure their homes or businesses.
Insurance is for when things go wrong, and fire is something that goes wrong. I think if you want to insure in the state of California, which is one of the biggest areas where they insure, then you should have to insure everyone in California.
State Farm auto policies will remain the same. The company says State Farm made this decision due to historic increases in construction costs, outpacing inflation, rapidly growing catastrophe exposure, and a challenging reinsurance market. It's necessary to take these actions now to improve the company's financial strength. California has experienced record wildfires in the past 6 years. State Farm is the second insurance company to stop offering coverage due to wildfires. Last year, AIG notified thousands of Californians their policies would not be renewed. With State Farm no longer accepting new customers, the real question is, where can people go for insurance in high fire risk areas?
We help the public understand insurance, what it does, how it works.
Janet Ruiz from the Insurance Information Institute says California's FAIR plan is the insurer of last resort for many in high-risk areas, but it's complicated.
It's a basic policy that only offers fire insurance, and then you have to get another policy, a wraparound policy to go with it.
For now, Lisa says she's happy to have insurance for her new fire-resistant home.
If we find some wood, we can knock on it. But
in Santa Rosa.
All right. So what do you think? I mean, that's insane. I understand from the business aspect why State Farm is pulling out, but it's insane to think that a major insurer is no longer going to be here. And I thought the same thing, Randy. Randy wrote, most homes in California are not subject to wildfire damage. You think State Farm would only stop policies in fire-prone areas. I believe, and I could be wrong, I'll do some research as more details come out. I don't think that they can pick and choose like that. I think they could change the price of the insurance, but I don't think that they can pick and choose. So I think it was all or nothing. You either offer insurance in the state of California or you do not. Murphy writes, we have State Farm for everything. I guess it's understandable, but what is going to happen when fewer and fewer companies will write policies for California? Exactly. Now, you just heard Janet Ruiz talking about it with the insurance company, talking about, there's this basic plan. You got to get a wraparound plan. I can't even imagine how much you have to pay for those plans. So this is what I imagine happening. People just stop building in these areas, which might be the point. I've said this before. When we, in areas near Chico and Paradise and some of these high fire prone areas, when a fire guts the town, does it make sense to rebuild there? And I know with the high cost of housing, that's the only place that maybe people can afford, or with the insurance payouts, they have to build there. But I don't believe, and you guys can disagree with me, I don't believe that people should be able to live everywhere they want to. It's not smart to look at an area, realize that wildfires are prone there, and think, oh, I'll just rebuild and we'll just deal with it the next time the wildfire comes. It's almost every year. And yes, if it devastates the town, it burns all the trees and everything, and you could rebuild. But come on, people. You just can't live everywhere, especially in these high wooded areas. It just doesn't make sense. And I know that's tough to hear, especially for people that don't want to live in the suburbs, don't want to live in the city, who might live in these towns like Paradise and love the community, the small town community, that it's different than other places that you can find in the state. And you can't find it necessarily in the state of California without dealing with the risk of wildfire. But at the same time, it also doesn't make financial sense. And what are you going to do? Build without insurance? Can't do that. So and so Jim, you're bringing up in Florida, they can raise prices with no restrictions. People are complaining big time in Florida. I always wondered the same thing. Florida, parts of the Gulf Coast, when hurricane after hurricane and floodwater after floodwater disaster happens, and yet they still continue to build, they're facing the same things. I love you, John. Yeah, stop making sense. I'm just saying it's a tough pill for many people to swallow when they realize and they look around what they consider to be, heaven, like paradise, trees and all kind of off the grid and not in the hustle and bustle. And you're able to buy land and build your dream home or just have a small plot with an RV or a tiny home. And you don't want to leave. But, when the fire's lapping at your door, you got to go. And now with State Farm leaving, AIG leaving, yes, other insurers. You guys are asking, other insurers going to follow suit? Absolutely. So that is huge news that State Farm is not going to be there anymore. Okay, so what are you guys doing? Let me know in the comments. What have you guys been doing on this Memorial Day holiday? Anybody go to see the movies? Did you see Little Mermaid? So Little Mermaid, despite all of the protests, tops the Memorial Day weekend box office. It has made $95.5 million on more than 4,300 screens in North America. They estimate the film will reach $117.5 million before today is over. It's the 5th biggest Memorial Day weekend ever. Anybody watch it? I haven't seen it yet. I was going to take my kids, and then we decided just to stay home and binge watch crap TV because my son's a little under the weather. So we just decided to change our plans just a little bit for this Memorial Day weekend. It is interesting that, it's doing so well despite all of the protests, right? Oh, Liz, you're cleaning? Yeah. I mean, how many of you just use the holiday weekend to do stuff like that, right? Dave, yard work and splitting firewood. That's a good idea. I cleaned some of the house. Did some shopping. again, my son got sick, so we couldn't do too much. The reason why I'm just doing a small mini episode today, and that it's a little bit earlier, is I'm about to head to go see my brother, who ended up, he doesn't live in California, he lives in Arizona, but he flew in to go to Bottle Rock. But I wasn't able to see him before he left for Bottle Rock because I was working in San Francisco that day last week. And so he flies out today. So I'm trying to have a little show and then go see my brother. Anybody go to Bottle Rock? Keanu Reeves was there. So it's been 20 years since Keanu Reeves' band Dog Star has performed in concert. They're a 90s alt rock band. Yeah, I saw a bunch of pictures. I didn't know that he was performing. I just saw George Kittle from the 49ers and Keanu Reeves kind of hanging out, and everyone was cheering and everything like that, which is awesome. It's absolutely awesome. Yeah, I thought I had a picture of Keanu. Let's see. Did I have a picture of Keanu? But yeah, every time I hear about Keanu Reeves is that he's like the nicest guy ever, right? So, and every time he was on screen, if you look up some videos or whatever, there he is playing his band. Everyone was screaming and yelling for him. Lizzo was headlining Bottle Rock, but apparently there were some unfriendly neighbors at Bottle Rock. This is what she said. She says, I saw some signs that were very unfriendly toward people like me. She was the headliner on Saturday. She said, I saw signs talking about how they want to cancel people like me, silence people like me, choke people like me. And they're right across the street. So we're going to sing this one more time so they can hear it, because maybe they haven't heard it in a long time. And that was her song Special, which dropped in January and has topped the Billboard charts. Some people are just idiots, right? There was a picture when I was following the story online. I guess somebody is a neighbor of the person that was having mean signs about Lizzo. And they're like, my neighbor is an idiot. Can you imagine living in a neighborhood and just living next to an idiot like that? It's just ridiculous. Eric's relaxing, watching my son use his day off to finish the new Zelda game. Oh, that's pretty good. Murphy, prepping for the big graduation weekend. My kids have 7 grandparents. Totally redid my yard yesterday. You guys are just ambitious this holiday weekend. I have one graduation to prep for. My daughter is graduating 8th grade, but she is not graduating for like 2.5 more weeks. It's insane. 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks. Everyone's going to be out of school, but my daughter's still going to be in school. So we're prepping for all of that. Be careful, though, if you guys are going out. Did you hear about Lake Del Val? A guy lost his oar, went in to go get it, and drowned. Now, I can only imagine there was something under the water that grabbed him, that pulled him under. I was reading the story. Tragic story. 26-year-old guy. 26-year-old guy by the name of Daniel Cullison. He drowned in Lake Del Val after he went after his oar from his family's boat. So the water is cold. It's fast. You don't know what's underneath it. So, you got to be careful out there. We do have a date for when Big Oak Flat Road on Highway 120 into Yosemite is reopening. That's going to be June 10th. So that's coming up. It's not now, but some of you may have been going up to Tahoe. It's a bit of a detour, but you should do that. What else is open? Sea Cliff State Beach has reopened. You'll remember these storms devastated the beach. So it's reopened. So if you're looking for something to do today, it's still a little early. You can go and do that. I'm going to go see my brother in a minute. We're going to barbecue. It's so overcast today. I'm waiting for summer. It's like Mother Nature doesn't know that it's summer. It's sunny and it was kind of nice yesterday, but the cloud cover can go away. Calvin with the best piece of advice: wear a life vest when out there. Absolutely. So I will be back tomorrow with Kim McAllister. I just wanted to come here and do a little mini episode for you guys. Stay safe. Come back tomorrow. I do work in San Francisco Wednesday and Thursday, and you guys are the first to know that it's going to be a bit of a reunion for someone I used to be on the radio with for many, many years. And we will both be on on the same radio station in San Francisco. And so if you want to tune in, you can tune in. Actually, it starts right after my show that Kim will be doing solo on Wednesday and Thursday at 2:00. So tune in. We are going to be back together. I appreciate all of you being here. If you're watching on replay, thank you so much. I know I'm going to take the whole day off because oh, because we'll be following whether or not Congress is going to actually approve it and everything like that. Love you guys. Please click the thumbs up button. If you want to show some support, please do. Just go to theNikkiMedoroShow.com, theNikkiMedoroShow.com. Please become a Medorable. Subscribe, become a monthly subscriber for whatever amount you can. And if you can bump up your monthly donation, we so appreciate it. I love you guys. Have a meaningful Memorial Day. Stay safe, and we'll talk tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.